live, right? Hello aspirants and welcome to the open session on the mains answer writing strategy. So as we all know that mains is around the corner, so this session is specifically designed for this year's aspirants who will be writing their mains examination on 21st of August 2026 is when it starts. So in this session, I will be taking you right from the very basics of answer writing, the keywords with respect to answer writing. It is also like a workshop wherein we will be practicing what I teach with the help of the questions of UPSC previous years, right? So let's get started with this particular session. So if I ask you a question as to what is the most important thing when it comes to answer writing, what would be your answer? A lot of you might think it is the content that is the most important, the facts that are most important, the examples that are most important. Well, you're not wrong over here. However, trust me, that is still not the most important thing. See, the most important thing for your answer writing is the first skill, that is to understand the question. Yes, understanding of the question is the most important thing in your mains answer writing. Why? Because many aspirants fail to even understand what the question have asked them. Now, when they fail to understand what the question has asked them, they of course are not writing what the question is asking them. As a result of which, even after having huge amount of knowledge, very good content with them, they will also be thinking that they have done really well in their mains, but they will still fail to get a call for their personality tests. So first thing is to understand the question, which is the most important thing. Second is, after you have understood, now a very simple thing would be, sir, since I have understood the question, now I will be writing what is required. No, not necessarily the case. Sometimes even after understanding the question, the student still writes something completely different. So the second most important thing over here is to basically address all the parts of the question and all the dimensions of the question. All the parts and dimensions of the question. Now, what is this? And what is the difference between the parts and dimensions? See, the parts in a mains question is very explicitly given. Explicitly given means you will be easily able to identify the parts. So that will not be much of a problem. I'll give you an example. In 2024, there was a question in GS paper 3 with respect to inflation, in which the question asked, list down the causes of persistent food inflation, question mark. Comment on the effectiveness of monetary policy committee to address this kind of inflation, full stop. Now here you can clearly see, guys, that there are two parts. These two parts are generally distinguished from each other by a question mark or a full stop, so on and so forth. So you are clearly able to identify that the first part of the question was to list down the reason for persistent food inflation. And what is the second part? The second part is to comment on the effectiveness of monetary policy to address this kind of inflation, correct? So the parts are explicitly mentioned in the question and it is easy to identify. So you will not make much of a mistake over here. The bigger concern here is the dimension of the question. The dimensions are not explicitly given. The dimensions are inherently present in the question statement, which you have to identify. So what are the dimensions in this? The second part, the first part of listing down the causes of persistent food inflation has only one dimension. You directly have to list down the reasons. That's it. End of story. But in the second part, wherein you are being asked to comment on the effectiveness of monetary policy to address this kind of inflation, there you will have multiple dimensions. What will be those dimensions? And that dimensions are given inherently. They are hiding in the question which you have to identify. So when you are commenting on the effectiveness, you have to tell how effective it is. That means you have to agree that to some extent it is effective, but then you have to also talk about its lack of effectiveness by explaining that. Plus, you also need to tell as to what needs to be done in order to make it perfectly, or not perfectly, but more effective. So there are three dimensions here. Tell its effectiveness, tell how it is not much effective as such, and then tell as to what needs to be done to make it more effective. So you see, in the effectiveness part, you have three dimensions. Did the question explicitly tell you these three dimensions? No, absolutely not. You have to understand that these three dimensions are included in this particular question itself. So this is what I mean by addressing the parts and the dimensions, right? So this is, guys, the second most important thing of your answer writing. See, we have still not reached the content part, and I'll give you a reason as to why content comes later, right? After this, another important thing is the framework of your answer. The framework in the sense that one thing should logically follow the next. That's one thing. Second, whatever part is asked first, you need to address that part first. Whatever is asked later, you need to address that part later. So a proper framework sequence needs to be maintained. This framework will consist of a logical sequence of your answer. Coherence means one thing logically leading to another. Then after coherence, you have basically the precedence. What is this precedence? Precedence means in one paragraph or in one part or in one dimension, you might be writing three different points. Which point would you write first? Which is the most important point? That plays a very crucial role. So precedence will also be there. At the same time, you need to also take care whether you should be writing your answer in point wise or paragraph wise. That will be determined by the question itself, right? We'll discuss more on that later. So third is basically your framework, which is very important. After framework comes your content. So you can see the content is coming forth. Now I absolutely agree that content is important. Without content you cannot write the answer, but my take to have it on the fourth rank is because any serious aspirant who has cleared prelims, right, or is about to clear prelims, you are there and there about, you will be clearing prelims, only then you will be writing mains. Any serious aspirant who clears prelims, who's serious about the mains and studies rigorously, should have a bare minimum optimum amount of content to be able to answer the questions that are asked. That is why this and this becomes more important than the content there is present. I hope that's clear. Now, in the content, you have multiple things. First is the core content of your answers. Core content of your answer means if the question is about the Citizenship Amendment Act, if the question is about GST, if the question is about, let's say, globalization, you should know what are these things, what are the challenges in it, what are the advantages, disadvantages, challenges, solution, the government schemes, the steps taken by the government. All these core content knowledge you should have. Now, in addition to this core content knowledge, you need to have certain supporting content. Now, what is the supporting content? See, if you are writing that a particular thing is good, bad or ugly, if a Citizenship Amendment Act is good, bad or not, if this particular decision by the RBI, by any constitutional body, by the government or a scheme is good, bad or not, or how successful or not it has been, what do you need? Can you just simply say that this is bad? No, you have to give reasons. You need to support. You need to provide evidence. So how do you provide evidence? See, you will have to have certain facts and figures with you. Okay? Certain reports, indices, right? For polity and all, there will be Supreme Court judgments. Right? The concept which you want to be implemented, on similar lines, there might be certain state level scheme which you want the government of India to adopt at a national level. So there will be the steps that are taken would be under the schemes, right? Welfare schemes, so on and so forth. So this is what you would be using in order to support any argument that you are giving. Now, one thing very important to remember here is that it will not be possible for you to give the supporting content in every place, in every single sentence. But in a single answer, at least when you are writing in support of the argument or against the argument, one or two things in both the cases needs to be there, and it can be any one of this. Now, in addition to that, as and when necessary, you should be drawing the diagrams. Very important to draw the diagrams. But please remember, guys, do not unnecessarily try to push your diagrams in the answers. That is not necessary. Right? So I have seen people draw mind maps in the answer. Avoid that. It does not help at all. Right? It should not be that this, you should not, this is not a diagram. You are writing advantages over here, and then one advantage here, one advantage here, one advantage here, one advantage here. This is not a diagram. Okay? If you want to write the points under advantages in this manner, you can do that. But remember, this is not a diagram. This will not give any value added points. This is like a mind map. You could have just simply written advantages and under it 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Instead, you wrote like this. This is not a diagram. This is simply a mind map. This does not, is not considered as a diagram. Then what is a diagram? See, a diagram is something which can say a lot more with less number of sentences and words. You agree with me? For example, in ethics, we will draw a lot of Venn diagrams, right? This is the Venn diagram of sustainability. Economic viability, environmental viability, social viability, all these three things together when happens, it gives you sustainability of the project. So now, just by drawing this diagram using 3 words and 1 word here, 4th word, you can actually describe in detail what is a sustainable project, right? This is a diagram. This is not a diagram. Do not force your diagram into it. Please have pre-prepared diagrams ready for ethics and for economy, etc. In addition to that, of course, in geography and all, there would be diagrams when they ask how a particular landform is formed. So it is essential that you draw a diagram there. In economy, social issues, other places, if you don't draw a diagram, not a problem, you can still score good marks. But if you draw the diagram, it makes your answers exceptional. But in paper, in subject like geography, if they're asking you to describe the process of formation of particular landform, then you have to draw the diagram. If they're asking you how an oxbow lake is formed, so you have to make a sequential diagram of the oxbow lake, without which you will basically be not getting good marks and you will not get a call for your personality test. I hope that's clear. So these are the topmost important things that are present. Now, one thing to remember over here is when we want to improve our answer writing, we cannot function by improving all of them together. I hope that's clear. So what we have to do is start improving this, this and this one at a time. It's like a dance art. In a dance, particular dance step, you will be using your head movement, your hand movement, your feet movement, your hip movement. So first you start with the hand, then maybe your hips, then your legs, then you combine in sync, and then you give the expression. That is how answer writing needs to be presented and understood. So you'll have to first start to understand the demand of the first start to understand the question, then try to address all the parts and dimensions that are mentioned over here, and then make sure that your framework is improving. So these are the three things that we will be focusing on. As far as the content is concerned, this is a continuous thing. This should happen on a daily basis. Every day you will be reading, you will be revising, you will have your notes which you will revise from, and when you write answer, you will be improving this, this and this together, and that is what we are following here in our mains edge test series, also a brief about which I will give you in a short time. Okay, so this is clear. These are the most important things for your answer writing. Okay, now let us, so this is what the skills that you need. Now let us understand what you should do, what to do and what not to do. Okay, so what happens is people actually keep on writing hundreds of answers, and I have seen students write hundreds of answers. So avoid writing too many answers mindlessly. Do not write, or since I have written already what not to do, so I can directly write hundreds of answers mindlessly, or write hundreds of answers without feedback. Avoid this. Why? Because if you are writing hundreds of answers, first of all, mindlessly just keeping on writing without getting any feedback, and you don't get any feedback from the expert, what will happen? Whatever mistakes you are doing, you are practicing those mistakes hundreds of times, and you will repeat those mistakes in the answer paper as well. So this is not something that you should be doing over here. Then what you have to do? You have to write optimum number of answers. Right. One more thing is also there, that when you are writing the answers, guys, please do not detach yourself from reading and revising. Right. I did take content at the 4th level, but without content, you cannot do anything in the examination. So you have to revise the syllabus that is there. And so basically what will happen is, first thing that will come over here is revise. Very important. You have to revise. I am writing revise here first because revision will start now and will go on till the very end. So revise has to be there. Then write optimum number of questions, optimum number of answers. I'll tell you what that optimum number is. Do not worry about that. Okay. It is to an extent subjective, but there has to be a minimum number of questions that you have to, no matter what, write. So optimum number of answers you have to write. Then you have to basically get the feedback. Now feedback cannot be just random, generic and the usual feedback that is available. I'm sorry, that feedback in most of the institute that is provided, it does not work. I'll tell you the feedback what they give. They give the feedback of, write this point, add this point, mention the scheme, mention that point. Okay, that is just simply about the content. When you will revise more, read more, revise more schemes, more knowledge, more thing will keep on coming. But asking you to write 2 more schemes, 2 more points, 2 more advantage, 2 more disadvantage is not going to help you. Right, you anyhow know that, you are anyhow revising it throughout the next 2.5 months. So what is the feedback required? The feedback is required with respect to, did you understand the question? Did you address all the parts? Did you address all the dimensions? Did you write the most important point first? Was your framework correct? Was your answer coherent? Was there logical succession or chronology in your answer or not? Was your introduction good? Was your conclusion good? Did the main body have all the required points? Did you mention enough facts, or did you write too many facts? Did you mention enough evidence and supporting content, or did you write too much of supporting content? Right? Did you mention example or not, or did you completely avoid the example? Did the question demanded example explicitly or implicitly? Did you mention them or not? So these are the tens of things on which the feedback needs to be given. Right? Starting from the introduction, going on to the main body and to the final conclusion. Not just that, get the feedback at a very microscopic level. When I say microscopic, we over here, I specifically over here, when I evaluate, and all our faculties when we evaluate, we go to the micro level. We even discuss with the student that this sentence which you have written is not projecting what is asked. Your knowledge is correct, but the projection of the sentence should be in a different manner so that it tells what is asked actually. So microscopic means detailed feedback on each and every answer, along with detailed microscopic macro level feedback, micro and macro level feedback. Micro feedback is for each and every answer. Macro feedback is for a specific test that you have written or a series of answer that you have written. When you will write 5 answers, 10 answers, or the full length test 20 answers, so a pattern will develop. Your strength and weaknesses will come out, based on which we will give you a macro level feedback. But individually in each question, we will also provide a micro level feedback to you. That is what we do in our mains edge test series. This is 100% required. Now, remember, this feedback, just if I give generically, if I keep correcting the papers and give feedback, it's good. But in addition to that, this feedback needs to be personalized. So get the feedback which is personalized. Now, how do I make it personalized? This feedback is given one-on-one to the aspirant. One-on-one to the aspirant. If you are an offline student of ours, you will be here in the mentorship room having one-on-one discussion with the paper checker, with the mentors, super mentors and the chief mentors. And if you are online, the same session will be conducted online, wherein one-on-one feedback would be given. Simply because if I simply write the micro and macro level feedback, a lot of things you may not understand, even though I would write it in detail. And even though English wise you would understand, but how to implement would be a challenge, how to apply would be a challenge. So all those challenges would be addressed through the one-on-one mentorship session or one-on-one feedback session that we conduct in our mains edge test series. This is what is going to help you. So these are the things that you have to do, and these are the things that you have to avoid. Now, once you have got the one-on-one feedback, now the ball is in your court. What do I mean by that? Now, you have to make a list of all the feedback that you are getting in order to ensure that in your future answer, you have to avoid those feedback. So here, next thing is improve on the feedbacks. This, you have to do it on your own. On your own as in, of course, under our guidance, but when you next time you are writing, you should be very in your mind that your introduction was weak, that your conclusion was weak, that your conclusion was negative. So keep in mind to write a positive, aspirational, goal-oriented conclusion, to write an introduction which adds value to your answer, which is in sync with your answer, to address all the parts, all the dimensions. Whatever feedback has been given to you, make sure that you improve on that, and make sure you don't do the same mistake in the successive answers. Make new mistakes, make as many mistakes as possible, but try to avoid same mistakes. I hope that is clear. So this is what you should be doing, and this is what we will be following in our mains edge test series as well, wherein we will be giving you every day wise target will be given for you to revise. Then day wise target will be given to you for analyzing the previous year questions. Then day wise answer writing targets will also be given to you over there. Then day wise feedback will be given to you at micro and macro level. Then day wise one-on-one mentorship will take place. and daily improvement in the feedback will be measured at our end. How we will measure? Because you are writing answers daily, right? And once you do that for the next, so it will start right now in the next 1.5 months. This is what you will be doing. Now, once you are thorough with it so this is basically your micro level development that will take place. Once you're thorough with it, then the full-fledged tests and all will start in the Mains Edge test series. So keep that in mind. So I hope that is clear as to what you have to do and what you have to avoid. Now, a very important question that comes in the mind of the aspirants is with respect to the keywords that UPSC uses, right? The keywords that UPSC uses. So let us discuss the keywords and let us understand how to attack these keywords and how to address the questions which has certain keywords in them. So the very first keyword, it's not in any particular order, right? Very first keyword is explain. Now, you yourself by logic can understand what this will mean, but let's go into the detail of that. See, whenever I ask you to explain me something, will you simply write pointers or list or numbers 1, 2, 3? No, right? You will have to explain it to me. That means you will have to clarify certain things. You will have to clarify. So you have to make things clear. The things might have small nuances, right? So you have to identify those nuances and give a bit of details on that. Now, how can you make things clear? The very beautiful way to do this is to give examples. Okay, I'll give you an example. That if you are asked about responsibility, compare and contrast responsibility and accountability. If you are asked this question in ethics, you have to, the responsibility, accountability sound similar, they are similar, but accountability is of a higher order than responsibility. You will explain all that, but if you give an example, it clarifies the thing, it explains it better. So example 2 is anyhow a must in every kind of question, but here it will play a very important role. So remember, when the keyword is explained, you have to clarify, make things clear and give a bit of details when it comes to that particular topic. So if someone is asking explain, see, I have given you a question in the beginning, list the reason for persistent food inflation. So let's look at that question only. And if I tell you, let's say if I tell you list the reasons for persistent food inflation, but instead of that, if I would have told you explain the reasons of persistent food inflation, so how will it differ? See, over here you can simply write down that the reasons are both supply and demand side reasons, and then you can just mention the reasons are in supply and demand side, and then you can list the reasons down. One word, one sentence, one phrase, one line. But if I have asked you to explain the reason, then what happens is your introduction would be about that the reasons lie in the supply and demand side, and then what you will take is you will club the reason or take one reason, you will write the reason and then you will explain it by adding an example. Let's say this is the first one, then you do with the second one also, then maybe as the third one you club 2-3 reasons together and then you explain it. So you can see here there is simply listing Here there is explanation of each reason. So the reason would be there. In addition to this, one or two sentences would be mentioned over here. That is the difference between listing and explaining. So here when the keyword is explained, you need to clarify, go into the details, give example which makes it clear for the evaluator, right? This is the very first keyword, right? Now let's move on to the next keyword, that is analyze. That is analyze. Now, what is the difference between explain and analyze? See, when you have to explain as a teacher. Become like a teacher who's explaining, making it simple, making it detailed, giving examples. But when you have to analyze, there is a situation would be given to you and you will have to analyze. Basically, analyze what? Analyze the relationship that it has, right? You will have to break it down in order to identify the relationship and analyze relationship, as in whether the relationship is positive, whether the relationship is negative, whether the relationship is neutral, whether there is a positive impact, whether there is a negative impact, whether there is no impact at all on that. So this is you analyzing, right? We actually in mains, one mistake that we do is we consider it same, we consider all the keywords same and start answering without even giving a thought about what that actually means. So in analyzing, see, imagine if I ask you, let's look at this question. I give you a question saying that explain Citizenship Amendment Act. Another one is analyze Citizenship Amendment Act. Will the answer content be the same? Absolutely not. When you are asked to explain Citizenship Amendment Act, you will go into the details of the provisions of the Citizenship Amendment Act, the features of the Citizenship Amendment Act. But if I am asking you to analyze Citizenship Amendment Act, then you will go on to the impact of the Citizenship Amendment Act, right? Whether it's positive, negative, right? All those impact is what you will be talking about. The topic is the same, the keyword changed. The moment the keyword changed, what you are talking about completely changes. Okay? So please understand this. This is the difference between explain and analyze. Okay? Let's move on to the next keyword. The next keyword that we have is, I would say, the most comprehensive keyword in UPSC mains question paper, that is discuss. Why do I say that it is the most comprehensive? Because it will consist of everything. It will consist of all the dimensions. It will consist of a very comprehensive dimension of the answer, right? For example, see, recently IPL have ended and RCB has won the trophy again. Now, if I ask you to discuss this year's IPL, I ask you to discuss this year's IPL, what will you do? Will you talk about only the positives, only the negatives, only the challenges, only the solutions, only the good things, only the bad things? No, you will talk about all of these things. You will talk about all of these things. Okay? When you're talking about positives, fair enough. Negatives, fair enough. Challenges, you will talk about that. Solution, you will talk about that. In fact, whatever is negative, how to improve that, you will talk about that also. So whenever I give you a word discuss, you will be talking about it in a comprehensive manner. If I tell you, discuss your strategy, or let's say last year also you gave your exam but you could not make it, so I asked you to discuss the strategy that you followed. So you will first talk about what your strategy was, correct? How did you implement that, correct? What were the positives of your strategy, right? What were the negatives of your strategy, right? Now, whatever was the negative, why it became negative? So what challenges did you face during implementing that strategy, correct? Now, how do you address to resolve that challenges? So talking about the solution of those challenges. Here there will be introduction, then what was your strategy, how did you implement it, the positive, the negative, the challenges, the solution, and the conclusion as well. So do you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Total 8 dimensions have come over here. You have 10 mark question and 15 mark question. 10 mark question 150 words, 15 mark question is 250 words, right? So 2, 4, 6 and 8. So 8 dimensions are there, 250 words, that means each dimension around 30 words, that means 2 to 3 sentences only, right? So what does this tell us? This tells us that it's not the depth that is important, it is the width that is important. Comprehensiveness is important. You would be required, there is no point in you knowing 20 positives, 20 negatives. Most you can write only 2, 3. So the 2, 3, 4 most important positives you should know. 2, 3 most important negatives you should know. Okay? Make sure that you know the most important one. That's very important. Or else if you write generic pointers, generic reasons, you will not get the mark. Someone else would have written a better reasoning. Make sure you know that, because anyhow you cannot write the entire thing. Now, what happens if it is 150 words, then 150 divided by 8 gives you just 20 words, even less than that. Then what you have to do is club the solution and the conclusion, club the introduction and addressing the answer directly. Use introduction directly to start addressing the question. Use your solution and add another sentence in a complex manner, not too complex, in a simple manner only. Club these two, which I will tell you when we solve practical questions over here. Okay, so when you club this, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now 150 words, total 6 dimensions are there, right? So you have around 25 plus words, so easily 2-3 sentences you can write. Now this is the approach you have to take. So this is the word which is discussed, which, as I mentioned, is basically the most comprehensive, wherein you have to discuss the entire thing. I hope that is clear. Surely, let's move on to the next particular keyword, that is critically examine. See, examine can come alone also. So let me take these two keywords together. So you can, so two keywords we are taking together. Remember, please focus here. Examine or critically examine. Okay. Now the doctor examines, right? So when you are asked to examine a statement with respect to another statement, you have to examine whether this X, they will say this X situation is there, and probably examine if it is with respect to Y or not. So you have to examine whether Y is the reason of X or not, right? So Y can be the reason for X, Y may not be the reason for X. You are asked to examine. So your answer may be majorly in favor of X or majorly against that relationship, right? So it can be majorly in favor, it can be majorly against. Here you have the liberty to decide whether you will be majorly in favor or majorly against. You can also be completely in favor, completely against, but I will caution you, warn you against taking such a stand. Never ever take such a stand in which you are saying that everything is good only or everything is bad only, because nothing in this world, except for certain exceptions, nothing in this world is completely positive or completely negative. I hope that is absolutely clear. But here you have the leeway to decide where you want to incline depending upon the question statement, the topic on which it is asked, you can choose it, right? But when you are asked to critically examine, whenever you find the word critically, you have to write arguments in favor and arguments against. And the weightage cannot be 90%, 10% or 10%, 90%, the weightage has to be close to 50-50, 60-40, 40-60, or in certain extreme cases maybe 30-70, but more or less you have to have similar weightages given in favor or against. This is what is meant by critically whenever you hear the word critically. So you have to write in favor as well as against also. I hope that is clear. Next, the next keyword is evaluate. Right? In mains, you can be asked to evaluate the right to education or the right to work through Manrega scheme. Evaluate the success of Manrega scheme. Evaluate the impact of Manrega scheme. Evaluate something. Now, when you are asked to evaluate, you are acting like a judge. You are acting like a judge, right? So, when you are acting as a judge, don't you think you need to know certain facts before you can evaluate anything? If you ask me to evaluate the performance of Manrega for poverty eradication, shouldn't I know how much money was spent for Manrega, how many people benefited, and did these people get out of poverty or not? Right? When I have these facts, figures, etc., then only I will be in a position to evaluate. Either I have my own facts, figures, I have reports, indices, rankings, right, findings of the reports of Indian organizations, international organizations, any notification by the government, any Supreme Court judgment, something I should know, then only I can evaluate whether it was right or not. So in evaluation, you will basically be passing a judgment. Now guys, please remember, I am saying judgment, but that does not mean you simply pass a judgment saying that this is the best scheme, no scheme can be better, there can be no further improvement. No, I'm not talking about that judgment. Right? The judgment need not be completely objective and the judgment need not be completely in favor or completely against. The judgment can also be an open-ended judgment. The judgment also be, you can say, subject to certain things. The judgment can also be a judgment which talks about the middle path. Okay, yes, the Manrega, and don't use the word yes and no. Don't say yes, Manrega scheme has been good because of this reason. No, Manrega scheme has been bad because of this reason. Avoid words like yes, avoid words like no. Never write these kind of things in your answer, please. Okay? But whatever you write should point out to the fact that Manrega scheme, for example, has helped a lot of people to get out of poverty. You mention the facts and all that. However, in certain areas, it has fallen short. And then you talk arguments against that. And then finally, you talk about, apart from these lacuna, which can be addressed by these solution, overall Manrega has helped India reach this level. That is your conclusion. So the idea is, in a keyword which talks about evaluation, you have to give judgment. Judgment can be open-ended, subject, and have a medium path to it. Right? Don't make it completely objective. Please don't. Sometimes in social issues, for example, I'll give you a simple example. If they're asking you, which is better, love marriage, arranged marriage? Please don't end up deciding that hence love marriage is better or hence arranged marriage is better. Please don't do that. Since eternity, people are trying to identify which option is better, but there is no one single answer. Something works for someone, something else works for someone else. Something has certain positives and negatives, some other things have certain positives and negatives, as a result of which the answer to which no one has been able to find, whether it is love marriage, arranged marriage, whether it is capital punishment, not capital punishment, abolishing capital punishment, it is not that simple. Right? So do not objectively say that this is the only way, this is the right way. Don't do that in your answers. Your answer should be coming out to be a very balanced one. I hope that is clear. Right? So before closing up on the keywords, you can please list it down so that you know in your head how you have to act when you're writing questions related to this. So if the question says explain, you have to act as a teacher and explain in the simplest way possible, along with let's say with examples. Then If the question says discuss, it is the most comprehensive thing. So be a very comprehensive person trying to encapsulate everything that is there. When you are asked to comment, comment is also one thing which we will look at. When you are asked to comment, basically they are asking your opinion. Okay, that's clear. But an opinion is basically the lowest form of knowledge. So if you simply put your opinion, what will happen is it will not hold much value unless and until you back it up. So please make sure that when you are writing on comment, you are commenting, but you are adding value by supporting whatever you are basically mentioning. So when you are asked to comment, act as an observer. Okay? Then what all we have taken? Analyze. When you are asked to analyze, act as an investigator. An investigator goes into the minutest of details, right? Then when you are asked to evaluate and critically examine. So when you are asked to evaluate, you have to judge, act as a judge, and it is your free will. You can decide where you have to favor. But if it is critically examine, the word critically is used, then what you have to do is judge, but judge after hearing both the sides almost equally. It may not exactly be the same because you cannot literally count the words and do the exact same number of words for everything, but you have to basically judge over here after listening both sides almost equally. See, here also you will listen to both sides, but one side will dominate than the other. That's a possibility over here. I hope that is absolutely clear. Okay? So these are basically the keywords. Now let's move on to the GS papers. We are doing answer writing for all the GS papers, right? Now let me tell you, the answer writing of GS2 and GS3 is more or less similar. When it comes to GS1, there is a slight difference which I will tell you. And we all know that when it comes to GS4, there is a huge difference in the answer writing. There is a huge difference in the answer writing. That does not mean that it is more difficult. Absolutely not. We will make it very easy for you. Okay. So, what is the difference? See, in GS1, you will have history, you will have geography, you will have social issues, or you can say Indian society. Okay. Now, this is factual. This is also factual and usually dependent at times on diagrams as well, right? As a result of which, at times the geography answers may not necessarily contain any conclusion. For example, if they are asking you to describe the process of formation of a particular landform, what conclusion you will write? You can still write conclusion by saying that these landforms are a prominent feature of the Indian subcontinent, giving rise to huge amount of tourism, etc., which generates revenue for the Indian economy. That's a conclusion. Fair enough. You have been asked to describe the formation. You did that. In addition to that, you concluded it. You can write down, but there is no hard and fast that conclusion has to be there over here. And it has a lot of diagrams. At times, the diagrams are necessity, right? When it comes to GS2 and GS3, these are more on the analytical examination kind of questions which are there, in which you have to go into a bit of depth and details. So here you need to know the details of the thing and you have to basically give the examples over there. So both of the things work in GS2 and GS3. Okay. Now, GS4 is completely different because GS4 consists of section A and it consists of section B. Section B is case studies, which I will take separately in this lecture itself. Here there are questions in section A which are very generic in nature. Okay? So I will deal with it separately. Just focus on these two. In this, history and geography answers can be very factual, diagram oriented, and there may not be, in geography especially, there may not be any conclusion. In history, especially in medieval history and all, there will definitely be conclusion. Don't worry about that. Social issue is, answers of social issues are similar to GS2 and GS3. Social issues, in questions of social issues, generally, the questions, if you analyze for the last 10 years, you don't have to, we have already done it for you. You will realize in social issues questions, in almost all the questions, there will be two sides. First, you agree with it, disagree with it, conclude the answer. Agree, disagree, conclude the answer. Generally, the questions are like that. We will solve certain questions and see. Okay. So first, let's take questions from these and practically improve our answer writing. Once we are done with it, we will go to the case studies. Alright, so let's start with the workshop now, wherein what we will do is practice it on the go with me. So let me give you a question. The question says, do you think that globalization results in, this is the question, do you think that globalization, I will also tell you the pitfalls where the students will lose marks. Globalization results in only, globalization results in only aggressive consumerism. See, also remember guys, UPSC is now asking questions in which you need to be factually also clear. They are asking aggressive consumer culture. So you should know what is this consumer culture or consumerism. I'll explain, don't worry. Consumer culture, question mark. Even if they would have given you this, it would have been the same answer. Then if they would have added another word which they have said justify your answer. Justify your answer. See guys, the addition or subtraction of this phrase justify your answer should not change the content of your answer. Why? Because see, if simply I ask you, do you think that this is the case? You saying yes, you saying no will not cut it. You have to give reasons for it. So UPSC can ask you give reasons for it or justify your answer. It's one and the same thing. Clear? Now, over here, what you have to avoid. Let's see what you should avoid. Avoid writing yes. Avoid writing no. So many people say yes, I think this is the case, and then they write reasons. No, I think this is not the case, and then they write reason. How can you say yes and no at the same time? If I ask you, do you want coffee? Yes, I want coffee because I like it. No, I don't want coffee because there's too much of caffeine intake. Does that even make sense to you? No, right? You have to analyze. See, the smell of coffee is attracting me. I like coffee. It is my favorite beverage, as a result of which I am inclined to have it. However, I have already had a lot of coffee already, which exceeds my caffeine intake, as a result of which I would try to avoid taking coffee right now. So what have you done? Have you said yes? Have you said no? No. You analyze the entire thing and finally you took a decision. Or your decision could also be, I would take coffee but only half of what you are offering. So that is how you should be answering. Avoid writing yes and no, please. Is that clear? Avoid writing in a very generic manner. Why? Because they have asked you to justify your answer. Even if they don't, they say, do you think? You don't keep on saying yes, I think, because do you think that globalization results in only aggressive consumer culture? So you will say, yes, I think it does, because consumerism increases, people are buying more, people are selling more, the prices are inflating more. How do you know that? What is the backing of that? What is the evidence of that? You have to mention those evidences also. So avoid saying yes, avoid saying avoid saying very generic things as well, and avoid focusing only on one aspect, right? Avoid focusing only one-sided argument. I would say this is the most important thing over here. Avoid having only one-sided argument, guys. You might agree with this, guys, and that might actually be the case majorly, but does it result in only aggressive consumer culture? No, it gives you a lot of other things as well. So your answer might be dominated by this, but you have to show the other side of it as well, or else your answer will become unidimensional. You will not get the marks at all, and you will be taken as someone who cannot see the other side of the coin. Do they need someone like that in the civil services? Absolutely not. Right? So you have to avoid these things. Now, what you have to do things, let's see. So first of all, do you think globalization results in aggressive consumer behavior? You have to agree with this and then write the points of agreement. Then you have to disagree with this and write the points of disagreement. Is that clear? And when you are doing so, agreement points or disagreement points, supporting evidence of the same, which can be examples. Okay? And then conclude by saying how globalization along with various other solutions can reap the highest amount of benefits. This will be your conclusion. So you see, you have agreed with it, you have disagreed with it as well. Now the question is, where will you emphasize more, agreement part or disagreement part? See, if it would have said, do you think that globalization has resulted in aggressive consumer culture? Majorly agree, but some amount of disagreement. It is saying only aggressive consumer behavior, agree to some extent, but disagree also to a considerable extent, and then look at why that has happened, talk about why it has happened, and then basically provide supporting evidences, and then provide the solution how globalization can further benefit if we add certain additional points, and then conclude your answer. Is that clear? So this is how you should approach. So first dimension, second dimension, this will be a part of these two dimensions only. Then you have the third dimension, which is how you can best utilize it, and then you conclude it, and then there will be introduction over here, and there is a conclusion over here. If I remove introduction and conclusion, still you have 1, 2 and 3 dimensions in your answer. Is that clear? This was a 10 marker question, I think, which was asked a few years back. Okay? Surely. Now let us look at the next question, and I would want you to make the framework and, if possible, type it in the chat as to what framework you will use for this answer. Let us see. The question is, what are environmental pressure groups? What are environmental pressure? This is GS2 question. What are environmental pressure groups? Question mark. Discuss their role in raising awareness. Discuss their role in raising awareness. Discuss their role in raising awareness, comma, influencing policies, influencing policies, influencing policies, and advocating for environmental protection, and advocating for environmental protection in India. Surely. Quickly, I'll give you 60 seconds, write your framework, what all it will be there, simultaneously I'll discuss. See, let's go back to the beginning of the session, the beginning of the lecture. When I said what, that first you need to understand the question. So, and then I said address both all the dimensions and parts. What are how many parts does this question have? This question has 2 parts. What are the environmental pressure groups? That's the first part. Second, discuss their role in raising awareness, influencing policies and advocating for environmental protection. This is the second part. This is the first part. This is the second part. Okay? Now, how many dimensions are there? First part has only 1 dimension. So, first part, I am just trying to break it down so that you understand how the mind should work. First part, 1 dimension. Why only 1 dimension? They are simply asking you the definition. You not just the definition, just make sure that you write what are environmental pressure groups, which you can explain through definition, plus another sentence to explain it further, and maybe give an example. Give an example of an environmental pressure group. I hope that's clear. Now, if you look at the second part, now how many dimensions? Yes, can anyone tell me how many dimensions are there in the second part? See, the second part, they are asking you to discuss. I have already said that the discuss word is the most comprehensive word that is there. They are asking to discuss the role of their role. Whose role? Environmental pressure group's role. For what? For raising awareness, influencing policies and advocating for environmental protection. I hope that's clear. So, this will have multiple dimensions. First, so they will have dimensions of discussing the role. Role of what? Role in raising awareness. Right? Role in influencing policies. And third dimension is role in advocating environmental protection in India. So are there only 3 dimensions? No, there are more dimensions. Why are there more dimensions? Because it's discuss. So when you are talking about role in raising awareness, in a positive aspect you are writing. Influencing policies, positive aspect, how positively can the policies be influenced so that environmentally sustainable policies are brought out by the government. Then advocating environmental protection in India, how do they advocate that? That's all positive. So you will be writing all the positive aspects of it. However, it can also have certain negative aspects, certain negative roles as well, which can actually act as a hindrance. That is why mention them. Do not focus much on them. Guys, please understand, the answer is about this and this. In this 1 dimension, in this the answer is about these 3 dimensions. But we want that edge. That's why you will be here for mains edge test series. You want that edge over someone else. Where is that edge going to come from? That edge is going to come from when you write in 1 sentence, in 1 line, all the negative things that can also come from it. Immediately after that, you will talk about the solution to all those negative externalities and then conclude your answer. I'm not including that in the dimension. So you have your introduction, then you have the 2 parts. In the 2 parts, the first part has 1 dimension, the second part has 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 dimensions, and then here guys you have the conclusion. This is your conclusion. This guys is a mains answer, a UPSC answer. If you write this answer, you will be selected for personality test. That is a short thing, right? Now, of course, I can't say short because the number of seats are limited, so that will be there, but your chances of selection would, of course, increase. I hope this is absolutely clear for all of you. Okay? Any doubts? No one has written any framework over here. Please, you can share it as well. And if you have any doubts, you can ask in the chat as well. So now this is how you will write the answer. Now let us look at the bifurcation of this question. So let me just see how much, for how many marks this question was probably asked. Then based on that, we will be deciding the word limit and stuff. This was asked for 15 marks and 250 words. So this question was asked for 15 marks, 250 words. Now that means that you have total 250 words. Now let me distribute it. First of all, by looking at the question, by reading the question, you should also be able to understand which part will hold more marks. Look at the question. What are environmental pressure groups? Just one small part asking what they are, nothing else. And here that's a comprehensive word, discuss their role in raising awareness, influencing policies, advocating environmental protection, multiple dimensions. So of course this will hold more importance than this. You can easily say this will hold importance of 10 marks or more, and this will hold importance of 5 marks or less. Right, so you can say around 3 to 4 marks over here, around 11 to 12 marks over here. Right, so basically you have to divide in such a way that you give around 25% weightage to this and 75% weightage to this. So basically let us now talk about the weightages. So you have 75 words on this part and 175 words on this part. Now in this 75 words, 25 words for the introduction and 50 words for explaining what is environmental pressure groups and giving the example. So around 2 sentences of introduction is what you write, and around 4 sentences, 3 to 4 sentences is what you take to explain, define and write the example over here. Is this clear? Then comes to this part, 145 words. So talking about raising awareness, you write 2 points over here. Right, influencing, so 2 to 3 points. Somewhere if you are writing 2, the other way it can be 3. So basically 2 to 3 points or sentences. Then again you will have 2 to 3 points. We are breaking down this so that you can follow this for other questions as well. Then you will have advocating protection in environmental protection in India, again 2 to 3 points over here. Then this in one sentence, this don't write point wise and multiple things in multiple sentences. Use one sentence, in one sentence only mention all the negative externalities can be there. So one single sentence is going to be good enough over here. Then again one sentence is going to be good enough over here, and then you conclude by having 2 sentences. When I'm saying 2 sentences, basically 2 sentences worth of words. A sentence, simple sentence, write your answers in simple sentence, should consist of 10 to 12 words. That's more than enough. So this, when I say 2 sentences, basically I'm saying that this should consist of around 20 to 25 words. Do not stretch it too much. This also 25 words I've said, but it's 20 to 25. Do not go beyond that, please. 20 to 25 words. I hope that is clear. So 25 words gone here, 25 words gone here, 50 words are here, 100 words are gone. Now out of this 175, 25 words gone here, so 150 words are remaining. So that 150 words gets divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 different dimensions. Right? 150 words, 5 different dimensions. So this would have around 30, let's say 30 to 40 words over here. That's what, 3 sentences. Again 40 words over here. Now I'm not saying during the examination you do all this analysis. When you practice in our mains test series, you will become habitual of doing this automatically. So 40 words over here, and again another 30 words, let's say 30 to 40 words, 30 words over here. So it's 110. You are left with what? 40 words more, another 20 words, 1 sentence, another 20 words, 1 sentence. This is a UPSC level answer which is going to help you clear the mains. I hope that is clear. So this is how, guys, we objectively break down how an answer has to be written. Now, have you ever seen any feedback or analysis of this degree? So when we check your paper, we check each and everything. When we give feedback, we give feedback for each and everything. Okay? Now, imagine if you don't give a damn about this and you say, sir, I don't care about these words. Why are you going into this minute details? Then let's see what happens. You write 150 words here and only 100 words in this case. Will it make sense? Absolutely not. If you utilize 150 words over here and you write only 100 words, will you be able to write pointers for raising awareness, influencing policies, advocating environmental protection, then the negative things, then the solution, then the conclusion? You will not. You will fall short. Even if you address, you will be able to write maybe only one sentence or so, right? So that will be a problem. And here you would have wasted a lot of words. So this is the way forward. A bit here and there is fine. Instead of 75, 60 or 85, it is instead of 175, it can be 180, 160. All that is fine. I have mentioned here 2 to 3 points. That can be 2, 3, 3, 2, 2, 4. A bit of here and there is fine. But at a macro level, the balance of your answer should be something like this. I hope that is clear. Now, let us take another example of another question. I would want you to now write the framework, and that would be even more difficult because that question is of 10 marks. So the word is more limited. Let us see how to do it. So let's see what the question is. The question says, this is a 2024 mains question in GS3 paper from Indian economy. The question is, what are the causes of persistent high food inflation? What are the causes of persistent high food inflation in India? Question mark. Comment on the effectiveness of monetary policy of the RBI. Comment on the effectiveness of monetary policy of RBI to control this type of inflation. Marks to 150 words. Now here, since it's of just 150 words, since there are two parts, since there will be multiple dimensions, as a result of which you cannot afford to have introduction of 20-25 words, conclusion of 20-25 words, because then you will be left with only 100 words. In fact, you cannot even have an exclusive introduction and conclusion of 15-20 words as well. So what you have to do is you have to write an introduction in such a way that it starts to directly address the question, write a conclusion in such a way that it is also a solution and it concludes your answer as well. So here what will happen is your introduction which will be there, that introduction should start answering the question. Right? 15 words. Then you have the main body. In main body, first part, should start answering the question, the first part of the question. How many parts there are? What are the causes of persistent food inflation in India? They have not even asked you to explain, or they have not asked you to discuss that. They have simply asked what are the causes. So this is basically your first part. What is the second part? Comment on the effectiveness of monetary policy. Comment on the effectiveness of monetary policy of RBI to control this type of inflation. This is basically the second part. So there are basically two parts. If you look at the first part, how many dimensions does it have? Only one dimension it has, that is simply to tell what are the causes of persistent high food inflation. How many dimensions does the second part have? See, in second part they are asking you to comment on the effectiveness. So you have to say that it is effective to an extent, you have to prove it, but at the same time not comprehensively it can address it, you have to say that as well. So you will argue in favor of, you will say how it is effective, and you will also say how it is not effective enough. Not effective enough. So this is one dimension here, this is one dimension, this is second dimension, and the third dimension is, if this is not effective enough, then what you should do, what should be the solution to make the control of inflation quite effective, right? How can you effectively control that? That would be your solution plus the conclusion, right? This is what a main body will look like. So let us go in further detail of that. So in introduction, you should start by answering the question. So you can start by saying that the persistent high food inflation in India, or the high food inflation in India has persisted because of the demand and supply side constraints, or demand and supply side reasons, or demand and supply side causes. That is your introduction. I have told you, correct? Now, once you have said that, then in the main body, directly start writing the causes, right? So here, directly start writing the causes, right? This cause, another cause, another cause, another cause. You can club it up as well, right? Last point, you can club whatever causes you want to mention, right? Or else you will be left out. Also, one trap, please remember, they have asked the causes for the persistent high food inflation. That means the reasons because of which the food inflation is still there right now. So don't generally keep on writing whatever can be the cause. Write what is the cause for the present one. Very, very important. Okay. Then once you have done that, then the first part is clear. This first part is done. Now let's move on to the second part. In second part, try to showcase the effectiveness. But to tell you the truth, RBI's monetary policy is not much effective when it comes to controlling the food inflation. That is why. Showcase how it is not effective enough. Right? And then, so causes, effectiveness, not effective enough. Then you basically provide the solution as to how to make it effective, or what other things that can be done, and along with it add a concluding line in this itself. So this, guys, is a UPSC level answer which will again help you to clear the mains and get a call for the personality test. I hope that is absolutely clear. Okay. So now if you look at the distribution of the words, 15 words. Here also I would say 15, but you are not concluding, your writing solution as well. So I will give you 20 to 25 words for solution as well. So 25 plus 15, 40 words are gone. You are left with 110 words. Now you are left with 110 words. You can use around 30 words over, let's say, yes, 30 words over here. Then effectiveness is not much is what I said. So 30 words over here and 50 words showing why it is not effective. Okay. So this is, or it can be 40-40 as well. In fact, if you want, you can take it as 40-40 as well. So as I said, a bit here and there, 5-10%, not a problem as such. Right, 40-40, 80 plus 30, that's 110. Then that's 15, 125 plus another 25, that's 150 words. Right, so this is how you should think. And I'm saying in words, basically break it down into sentences. This is one sentence. This is two comprehensive sentence. But if you are writing in pointers, the causes will be, for example, supply chain mismanagement. So this is just 3 words. So you can write 5-6 causes in short. That is more than enough. Then effectiveness, explain in 2-3 lines. Not effective, explain in 3-4 lines. And then provide the solution in a line and conclusion in another line. This is how, if you write this, guys, you will get exceptional marks. Trust me, if you can write all the answers. See, sometimes you may not even get know some of the questions. The knowledge may not be there, or it might be too factual or something like that. So instead of out of all 20 questions, let's say you are answering only 18, but out of that 18, if you can, 14-15 questions you can write in this much of detail. 2-3 questions may not be up to the mark, I do understand that, but if you are solving 18 questions and almost all of them questions are providing this, you should get a call for your personality test. It is as simple as that. I hope that is clear, online aspirants, right? So now we have seen how to break it down. Now comes the most important, or more important. Why? Because the market has scared you with respect to the GS4 paper. Before we move on, I will just give you a brief. So now that you have understand how much in detail we go, you know that if you follow this, you will improve your answer writing and you will get the call for personality test. So now let me tell you a brief of what you will be doing if you will join the mains edge test series, right? So this mains edge test series which is there, basically it is divided into phases. So we have the phase 1. So if you already, if you enroll immediately, this phase 1 is going to last till 18th of July, because revision is also very important. So what you will be doing over here is, please hear me out over here because this is very important. You will be given a daily routine, daily, not weekly, not monthly, not fortnightly, but a daily routine. Daily routine of what? Daily routine of the topics that you should study, the PYQs that you should analyze, the questions to practice answer writing, the topics that you should read plus revise, the PYQs that would be analyzed, and the questions that you should practice for the answer writing. Okay? At the same time, the tests will also start. Tests, those are known as the MET tests. MET means the mains edge test series tests will start. This phase will go on till 18th July. Now, what is the importance of this phase, guys? The importance is UPSC has started asking questions even in mains which are very factual, very deep driven questions, in which factually, knowledge wise, you have to be good or else you will not be able to answer it. So the very first step is to know what is asked. Then only we move on to the other phases, right? So this is going to be your first phase. When the first phase is going to be over, then the second phase, first phase, all the micro level details are done. In second phase, we will go into the integrated application of the knowledge that you have got in the first phase. Along with the knowledge, you will be doing the testing. Application and the testing of the knowledge that you have will be done. Now, what will this be? This will consist of advanced tests. Macro level advanced tests will be present over here. Your essay tests will also start along with all the GS1, GS2, GS3 and GS4. And these will be the advanced tests which will calibrate you to the UPSC level of questions. The previous ones were also of UPSC level, but we went into quite microscopic detail over here, over there, and here in phase 2 advanced level test will be there, which will run from 21st of July to 9th of August. So this will be making you ready for the UPSC examination, right? And the last phase, probably the most important phase, but provided you follow the first phase perfectly, the third phase will consist of the simulation, revision and simulation. Revision means you have to keep on revising the content, plus simulation. Simulation means we will simulate the UPSC examination, essay test, then next day GS1, GS2, next day GS3, GS4, then repeat. So here you will have essay test, then you will have GS1, GS2, then you will have GS3 and GS4 in the same exact same manner on the first day, on the second day and on the third day. We will be making you revise and simulating the UPSC environment, UPSC scenario and the UPSC pattern. You calibrate yourself with that and you will be up and running for the test series. I hope that's clear. Did I miss out anything? No, I think that is what it is going to happen. Now throughout these tests that you will be giving, there will be certain things that will happen. See, you will be given detailed feedback. When we mention detailed feedback, we talk about micro level feedback plus macro level feedback, which I have already explained to you. There will be one-on-one sessions. So feedback is not just your answer has been checked and you have been given the answer copy. You will be literally, if you are offline student in the institute, you will be sitting with the respective teachers. So for example, GS3 economy test, etc., you will be sitting with me. For different subjects, different GS papers, you will be sitting with different experts over there. This one-on-one session, this is the game changer. Because if you sit with them and if you sit with us basically, and if you can implement what we are asking you to, then you can actually get the call for your personality test. Okay? So make sure you don't waste any further time and get it enrolled immediately. Let's move on now to GS4. Now, how do we prepare for GS4 paper? Now, when it comes to GS4 paper, it is divided into two sections, as I have mentioned, section A and section B. Section A is theory. Section B consists of case studies. Okay? Section A is theory. Section A consists of case studies. In theory part, you will have question 1 in that A and B, then you will have question 2 in that A and B, and each question will be of 10 marks. You will have to write it in 150 words. This is the same here, this is the same here, this is the same here. Like this, you will have approximately 120 to 130 marks, or 120 to 125, 120 to 130. Right, at times it can be 110 also. Why? So what they will do is generally they will have 6 such questions. So you will have 120 marks worth of section A. Then section B, you will have 130 marks. Right, case studies will be of 25 to 30 marks. Right, so you will have, let's say, 4 case studies of 25 marks and 1 case study can be of 30 marks. So 25 into 4 is 100 and another 30, that gives you 130. So around 5 case studies you will have, and around 6 into 2, that is 12 theoretical questions, and that is 5 case studies is what you will have. This is how the broad, it can change a bit. Okay? There can be an additional case studies and less number of questions, or there can be more number of case studies with lower number of marks. For example, there can be 5 into 20 also, 5 into 20 and 1 into 30. This will also give you 6 case studies, or it can be 4 into 20 and 2 into 25. 4 into 20 and 2 into 25. Why I'm telling you these details? Because guys, please focus on the paper. If let's say you have some issue took place and you were slowed down, now you are left with only last 12 minutes, you can, and 2 case studies are left. Look at it, the one with the 30 marks, the other is with the 20 marks, solve the 30 marks and finish it off. So all that, you know, how much content you will write, how much time you will spend, all that becomes really important. Because of these trivial things, you should not miss from getting the personality test call. Okay? So this is how it is. Now, very interestingly, a lot of aspirants study these sections in isolation. Please don't do that. These sections are linked. These sections are linked with each other. What are the links? Whatever case study you get, the case studies are linked with the theory that you study in section A. I'll give you an example. The case study on Khap Panchayats. Khap Panchayats are extra constitutional. They are not constitutional bodies. They are not the Gram Panchayat that we talk about. These are Khap Panchayats. These are Khap Panchayats. You know, they come up with patriarchal, etc., race, sexist, casteist kind of decision. In the villages, they are prevalent. So they will, let's say, if there are intercaste marriages, they will shame the people who are doing it, make them sit on a donkey, color their face black, and make them roam around the village or kick them out of the village. So these are the things that are there. So let's say you are a district magistrate and you have been recently posted, and you realize that in one of the village under your district, this is running prevalently, wherein casteist decisions are being taken, patriarchal, gender inequality exists, harassment, all this thing is happening. So how will you change the attitude of the people, or what steps will you take? So this case study has linkages in your chapter 5. I won't mention the chapter name because different books can classify it in different manner. It is linked to the topic attitude, because you have to change the attitude of the people over there. Now you are a newly appointed district magistrate. Can you directly go and talk to the Khap Panchayat and say that stop this and stamp your authority? See, sometimes it will become really necessary to immediately act and stop it by force also. But here, you might be trying it. In the case study, they will mention that you are trying it with different methods, but people are secretly still following this. So what you have to do as a long-term measure is change their attitude. So the moment you link the case study with the chapter attitude, now you know what are the concepts of attitude, what are the ways to change someone's attitude, the ABC method of influencing someone's attitude, or the step wherein you identify the person which is held in high regard in the society, reach out to them, discuss with them, and then make them change the attitude of the people, so on and so forth. So these case studies are linked to each other. I hope that is clear. Now, let us see how we can basically approach the entire GS4 subject. So in GS4, I would say, see, GS4 is a pre-prepared paper. So for section A, what you should do is, all the micro topics that are there, make sure with respect to all the micro topics, you have the definition ready. Now, need not necessarily be the bookish definition. Absolutely not. In fact, I will advise you against that. The important terms, concepts, technical words and all should be there, but you can write it in your own words. Definition you should have. Then you should have examples ready. Examples as in, it can be personal life examples. It can be professional life examples. Okay? And so your personal life example, your professional life example, and example within the society, example within India majorly and around the world. The good practices around the world. Okay? This is what should be ready with respect to all the micro topics of ethics that exist in the syllabus. Okay? Now, read them, revise them, link it with current affairs. Examples of current affairs also is important. That helps. And be ready with the diagrams. A lot of Venn diagrams can be made. For example, if we have to make a diagram, let me just check it. So this is, I don't know. Yes. So this is one, and this is another, right? Let me shorten this a bit. And then you will have another circle. Let's say this is another circle. Okay, something like this. Now this is the diagram of sustainability. Social viability. Write down environmental viability. Economic viability makes the project sustainable, gives rise to sustainability. So this is the diagram of sustainable project. So you know how beautifully it defines. Any project is sustainable when it is environmentally viable, socially viable, as well as economically viable. If all these things are there, then it will be sustainable, or else it will not. How? If it's only environmental and social but not economically, you will not be able to sustain for a longer time. Socially, economically, but not environmentally, you will degrade the environment. Environmentally, economically, but social hazards are there, so people will not be okay with that, protests, etc., a lot of things. So when all these three things are there, it will be a sustainable project. So these kind of diagrams should be ready. In the same manner, integrity, what you believe, what you say, and what you act, if all of the three things are honestly done in a kind, empathetic manner and in the right way, you are a man or a woman or a person with integrity. I hope that's clear. So these diagrams, so you have to have the definitions ready with you, the examples ready with you, the personal life examples, professional life examples, example from Indian society, from around the world, as well as the current affairs happening, and the diagrams which should be ready. Now this you should have already done before the prelims, right? When you started your preparation. If you have not, don't worry, all the things would also be provided to you when you join the Mains Edge test series. So this is how the section A is taken care of. We will also be practicing the PYQs and then writing the tests as well. Now let's come on to the case studies. So if we talk about GS4 case studies, so there are only certain themes on which the case studies are asked. We will create certain framework which becomes very important, and then writing will be just filling the blanks in the framework. So what should be a typical framework? But there will be slight changes which we will discuss in the feedbacks also, and with respect to the different questions also, right? When you will be writing tests, your hand will be held, hand holding will be done with respect to each kind of nuances that can exist. But a general framework would look something like this. First, introduce the case study. At a macro level, in general, talk about the case study, introduce the case. Second, talk about the conflict or the dilemmas that are present. Third, talk about the stakeholders that are involved. Then talk about, after the stakeholders involved, talk about the steps or the actions that you can take, or the steps available, options available to you. Each option, bifurcate it into pros of the options and cons of the options, right? And then talk about the best way forward, or what will be the best approach and why, and then conclude your case study. This should be a generic framework of your case studies. Now here, please remember, let's say you have a 250 or 300 words of case studies. Introduction, only 2 to 3 sentences, around 25 words again. Conclusion, again 25 words again. I am assuming a 250 word, or let's say you can say a 300 word case study. Okay, 300 words case study. 250 words are remaining. Now let me give certain things or certain value addition on these things. See, at times the case study would specifically mention the options available in front of you. Sometimes they may not mention the options available. They will simply ask, what are the options available with you? Analyze with the pros and cons and what option you will actually take. So you will only have to decide what options are available. Sometimes some case studies will actually give the options 1, 2, 3, 4 and ask you to identify the pros and cons and what option you will take. Whether they ask you directly or indirectly, you still have to write it. So this will be, if they have given 3, 4 options, you have to analyze all of them. If not, at least analyze 3 to 4 options and basically start from the worst. Move from the worst to the best. From the worst to the best. So if you have 4 options in first one, which is the worst one, the cons will be, the pros will not be much, cons will be too much. So together 2-3 sentences, option 1 sentence, this 3 sentence, so around 40 to 50 words you might write. Okay. So the idea is you will write 40 words into, let's say, 4 options which are there in front of you. 160 words gets consumed over here, 25 words were consumed over here, and 25 words were consumed over here. Okay. So that's around 210 words. Now, if they specifically have asked you as to what are the dilemmas involved and who are the stakeholders involved, don't just write the stakeholders, write the reasoning as to why they are the stakeholders. Don't just write the dilemma, write the reason or elaborate a bit briefly. If they have not asked dilemmas and stakeholders specifically, then also you have to write. It's just that use lesser words if they have not asked explicitly. If they have asked explicitly, you can emphasize a bit more on that. So in dilemmas, mention the dilemmas, 2 to 3 dilemmas that you may have. Stakeholders can be multiple stakeholders. Khap Panchayat case study that I talk about. So it's the Khap Panchayat, the villagers, the people who are in favor of the Khap Panchayat, the people who are against the Khap Panchayat, and you are also a stakeholder over there. But make sure no matter what, your name as a stakeholder should come at the end. Whose name should come first? The victim's name. So when the Khap Panchayat is taking certain decisions, it is socially excluding certain people, it is doing caste-based discrimination, gender-based discrimination. So it is these victims of the Khap Panchayat decision are the stakeholders, right? Then the villagers in that particular village, some people may not even be aware that this is wrong. They may feel that everything is right. They are also the stakeholders, right? And then at the end, your name will also come because you are also a stakeholder, maybe because in certain case studies, what happens is, you are asked to implement a scheme which will not be much fruitful for the citizens. It's just a huge burden on the exchequer, but because the elections are coming, that is why this scheme, which is majorly a freebie, is asked, the politician has asked you to implement. If you implement, you will be given promotion, this, that. If not, you will be basically thrown into some remote village which you cannot afford because the health of your parents is not good. So all these things would be given. Don't write you as the first stakeholder by saying that I am a stakeholder because I, in the capacity of a district magistrate, is a stakeholder because my promotion is at stake and I might be transferred if I do not implement it. Even though a lot of yours is at stake, please still mention you as a stakeholder at the very end only. I hope that is clear. Okay. So Again, the stakeholders, whoever are the stakeholders, dilemmas, you have to write 2-3 dilemmas that are there. So around 25 words is fine over here. And then here stakeholders, just list them down. If they have specifically asked, then you will have to mention the reason as to why they are the stakeholders. So again, 25 words over here. So another 50 words over here is done. So 50 plus this introduction and conclusion, 50, 100 words plus this around 150, 160 words, that's 260. The best approach alone will be using around 40 to 50 words to tell what is the best approach over here. Okay. So this is a very generic raw breakdown or framework of a case study. And make sure whenever you are writing the best approach, try to add the government schemes, the government welfare schemes that are present, the various acts that are present, right? These are all value added points which you should basically mention. Or let's say the standard operating procedure which you are required to follow as a bureaucrat. All those things you have to mention over here. If you do that, guys, if you can write the case studies in this manner, you are going to get the call for the personality test. So all this in detail would be done in the mains H test series. Make sure you enroll for that. Okay, if you are studying from elsewhere, that's also fine, but this is the methodology that is going to help you succeed. Okay. So this is how we will be proceeding, wherein every case study would be, again, when the feedback is given, it would be discussed in detail to all of you. Now, for the aspirants who might be preparing for 2027, what you can do right now is, you can basically join the mentorship that is being provided, right? Mentorship for 2027. There is, the mentorship name is basically Sankalp Sadhana, right? So the mentorship one program is Sankalp Sadhana. There is another program which is only Sankalp, and there is another program which is only Sadhana. These are basically the names. The important point is the differentiating factor that is there. So if you have the financial wherewithal, this is the comprehensive mentorship approach that you should take. Why? Because here you will have the different levels of mentorship that will be provided. See what happens generally in mentorship, right? A lot of institute gives you a small call with a mentor. You don't even know whether that mentor has themselves cleared even prelims or not, and they are the one on the call, on the phone call, or even on a video call. You don't know any credibility about them. The thing over here is, every mentor over here, there are 3 levels. Every mentor has given personality test, have years of experience. Some of us have given multiple personality tests and have experience of over 10 years of mentoring successful candidates from scratch. Not just that, people already in service in IRS and all, we have upgraded their services as well, specifically through the mentorship program that is there. So here you will have first the general level of mentor, or you can say the general mentor, right? What will the general mentor do? The most important thing I say, which is nothing but setting up the accountability. How is the accountability set up? Through tracking that is done for each and every aspirant. That is very important. Here your detailed daily targets, the schedule at a micro level, what subjects to read, what sources to read, how many chapters, how many answers, how many MCQs, everything will be done. This is the first level. Second level would be that of a super mentor. This mentor would be responsible for your growth, right? So here, growth as in the performance. That's the word that has been used, the performance. So is your performance increasing, decreasing? Why? What's the reason? What doubts? What thing needs to be clarified? What needs to be improved will be done by the super mentor. Then you will have the chief mentor. The chief mentor will at a macro level provide you with the strategy. What strategy you should follow, what approach you should have, optional how much focus, GS how much focus, prelims and mains integrated approach, how it should be there. All of this will basically be done in this particular programs that is basically there in mentorship for 2027 aspirants. So because what has happened is there is a what you can say is information overload which is there in the system. So what should be studied, what should not, what should be the approach, how to attempt the MCQs, how to attempt the prelims paper, how to write the answers, all these things will basically be done over here. Right. So now let's come back to our answer writing discussion. So we have seen so far what the keywords that we have seen. Then I have given you example of questions GS1, GS2 and GS3. Plus we have also talked about the ethics case studies and in the ethics paper. I have also given the framework of these case studies. Now remember that framework was generic depending upon the nuances that are mentioned in the question or the case study. You will change a bit of your framework, just a bit. Also, in addition to this, you have to add value added points you have to write. This value added point note you should already have with you. Then I have also mentioned some of the facts, figures you should have handy with you, right? Also, what you should not forget is you should be continuously revising as well. Revision is also very important. And also whenever you get the feedback from the experts, let's say from the mentors, super mentors or the chief mentors, you need to implement that and do it. Now what is happening is last year, many years the marking sort of changes. Sometimes GS4 is highly marked. Right, previously essay used to be getting good marks. Now in GS4 people are getting more marks than essays, right? So it depends on checking and leniency and all that stuff. But don't worry if everyone is getting good, if the marking is high here, it's the same leniency for everyone. So don't worry about that. So remember GS4 is a pre-prepared paper. So you should already have all the fodder for it. If you don't have the fodder for it, please reach out to us. We will provide you the value added materials, the facts, figures for other papers also. The examples are very important for your GS4. In addition to the examples, the standard operating procedure is important. The government schemes are important. Which scheme to use where, the concepts, the diagrams. So please have a what I would say a collection of diagrams which you can directly make in your GS4 paper. In GS1 geography it's easy because the landform is what you have to draw, but in GS4 you should draw diagrams for integrity, for responsibility, accountability, for sustainability, which I have told you, plus many other diagrams, cause and consequences diagrams are there. Please make sure you draw it. Also remember, do not force your diagram into it. As I said, advantages and writing 1, 2, 3, 4 advantage. This is not a diagram, but this diagram that I have told you, this is a diagram over here. What is a diagram? That reduces the number of words required to explain a concept better is basically what a diagram is. Right, for studying you have to brush up the static content that is there because a lot of static things are asked, but focus a lot on the current affairs because the question would directly be from the current affairs. In our mains test series, we will be analyzing the PYQs as well, but we will be going back 4, 5, even at times for certain questions 10 years back, but majorly 3 to 5 years back is how we analyze in order to understand the trend, not just understand, to basically also understand what kind of questions can be expected, and the themes on which the questions can be expected plays a very important role. Because for example, let's say in GS3, if you talk about in GS3, you have economy also. Now you have studied economy for prelims, you have solved questions on economy for prelims. Now in prelims, the questions are concentrated from banking in India, the questions are concentrated from financial market, the questions are concentrated from public finance or let's say budgeting, right? And questions are concentrated from taxes. Chalo, theek hai. This is what I will say. These are where, 4 questions from this, 2, 3 questions from this. Last year also 4 questions from public finance. But when it comes to the mains, the story is something else. If 100 marks are coming from economy in mains, 50 marks are from agriculture alone. right? And the remaining 50 marks are from the rest of the topics, and in that also these are not prevalent. What is prevalent over here? Development, inclusive growth. Last 2 years there have been questions specifically mentioning inclusive growth. So inclusive growth, when it talks about development, you have poverty, you have inequality, you have unemployment, you have inclusive growth. All these things are asked. Then in the industrial sector, the MSME, you will be asked with respect to the growth, with respect to the GDP, with respect to the world economy, so on and so forth. So you can clearly see a different set of topics play an important role when it comes to mains as compared to the set of topics when it comes to prelims. So we will be focusing on these topics specifically so that the most important thing can happen, that you can solve 20 out of 20 questions. That is the aim, and then you will be trying to solve as best as possible. I hope that is clear. So that is how you should be approaching. That is how we will be training you. So without further ado, let's start with this. Let's come for the mains edge test series and prepare together, because now is the time. This last 2.5 months is the time wherein you should, this marathon is now going to end as a sprint. So for next 2.5 months, you have to devote anywhere between 8 to 10 hours. 8 to 10 hours, GS is sorted. If you can do 10 hours plus, the so optional and all will also be sorted. 8 hours minimum together combined, GS as well as optional, and of course essay. You have to give 10 hours on a daily basis. You know, you have to give this much of time, because you have to read, you have to revise your notes, you have to write answer, you have to get the feedback, improve on the feedback, and write the answers again. I hope that is clear. So that is all from me with this in this session from Legacy IS Academy. I hope to see you on the other side of this video discussing your answers directly with us. So that's about it, guys. Study well, and we wish all the aspirants all the very best. Thank you.